Hello everyone, this is Adam the Johnny from the Trinisphere presenting you with another deck tech on Alesha who smiles at death. Wait, didn't I just did this. Hey guys, why am I doing another Alesha deck tech? What? The other one was too spiky? We're sure. But the other one would win. And it was good. And it would be good on camera. No? Okay. All right. So we want less combo from the Johnny. Less combo. Okay. All right, less combo. Okay, so apparently the other deck tech that I did for Alesha was a little bit too spiky, so this one is going to be on our less spiky, kind of cutesy Alesha deck. This is the one that you'll actually see on camera when you watch the gameplay video. If you want to see the more combo-y, more spiky version, you can check the description below. I will make sure that it's there to the video and to the actual tapped out list. If you want to see the tapped out list for this, also check the description below and you can see it there. Also, while you're here, make sure that you share, like, and subscribe for all of our deck tech videos as well as our gameplay videos, and follow us on the social medias for any upcoming visitations to any GPs or anything like that. So, without further ado, let's check out the second Johnny Alesha deck. Again, I am Adam, the Johnny, brought to you by the Trinisphere. And we are looking at Alesha who smiles at death. In this case, Alesha who smiles at combos. So, I'm going to go really quickly through some of the early categories. So, our lands. We have our fetch lands. We have our shock lands. We have some dual lands. We have some check lands. And then we basically have, on top of that, a couple basics. Ghost Quarter, Strip Mine, and Wasteland as some removal. And that's pretty much it. I like to keep it at no tap lands at all. Just to speed up everything, especially when you have a curve this light. If we look over here to the side, I mean, our curve is really topping out at 3 in this deck. And I want to be able to cast those at 3. So, all right, let's take a look at our ramp. This is the same as the other deck. So we've got our Signet package. We have Mind Stone, Soul Ring, Solemn Simulacrum, mostly just because he can come back with Alesha's ability. We've got Land Tax, Knight of the White Orchid, which can also come back with Alesha's ability. And before we get into the rest of the deck, let's take a look at Alesha. So Alesha, basically a 3-2 with first strike for 3. That's not really relevant. When Alesha attacks, you may pay Orzhov. If you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield tapped and attacking. So that's the part that we would be concerned with here. And Alesha in this deck is not really the center of the combo, but it does help us get back a lot of value pieces and a lot of combo pieces that we might need. So this deck was put together kind of swiftly, since I had to make some changes to the deck before the gameplay. We thought that this one would be a little bit more interesting and give us a little bit more gameplay time than the other deck. So something that we're going to depend on in the deck is sack outlets. The sack outlets have not changed from the other one. We've got Ashnod's Altar, Goblin Bombardment, which is potentially a win condition on its own if you have some kind of infinite enter the battlefield ability that you have to end up sacking. Goblin Bombardment is going to be a great way to kill opponents using that. Sadistic Hypnotist, just a control element and a sack outlet. Unfortunately, something to always note with Sadistic Hypnotist is that it is only at sorcery speed that you can sacrifice things. However, it does have a power of 2, so Alesha can bring it back. So if you need a sack ability, this is a decent one. Also, Viscera Seer can be brought back with Alesha's ability, so that's convenient. Some protection for some of the creatures we were just talking about, Sadistic Hypnotist and or Viscera Seer, is Lightning Greaves, because it gives them Shroud. The haste is great on Alesha so that Alesha can attack. We can trigger its ability and then, recur whatever it is that we need to. 0 equip cost is very good. So we have no need to target Alesha or any of our other things. So having this out is very good. Reconnaissance also goes well with Alesha. This was in the other build also, where it allows you to remove an attacking creature you control from the game for 0. So you can remove Alesha from the game. So if you just wanted to swing so that you can trigger Alesha, you can then pull Alesha back using Reconnaissance. You can also pull the creature that's recurred with Alesha using Reconnaissance. So some interesting interactions with that. Okay, then we get into our draw spells. So draw was added. We added a decent amount of draw to this deck when we rebuilt it from the original. Bitter Revelation was added. You'll notice that this deck has a lot more self-mill added to it. So with everything that we do, we're going to try to add a little bit of a self-mill theme to it. So with the draw, we've got Bitter Revelation, so it allows us to draw some cards. It allows us to fill our graveyard, both good things. Dusk Legion Zealot, again, can be easily recurred, as well as draws you a card. Filigree Familiar, same thing. Korvath's Fury, a card that I've been tinkering with a little bit. I do like it. It's not my favorite card, but it kind of acts as another Reforge the Soul at the mana cost, and can also deal damage to opponents, potentially ending the game depending on what's going on in it. But yeah, it's again, we're trying to concentrate on self-mill with this one a little bit more. So more wheel effects and more rummage type effects are going to be good because we can get what few combo pieces we have in here and few win conditions we have in here a little bit more easily, get those down, and then ship away the rest of our hand and have them for recursion. Mad Prophet, again, just rummaging. Mentor of the Meek, perfect in this deck for draw because all of our things are going to have a power 2 or less. Not all of them, but the majority of them. Militia Bugler, effectively draws you a card in most cases. It doesn't always, but also recurable with Alesha. Moonlight Bargain allows us to fill our graveyard and or fill our hand, depending on how much life we want to put into it. Also instant speed. It is 5 mana, so not a huge fan of this card, but in the case where we do want to fill our graveyard and fill our hand, this allows us to facilitate both of those things. Phyrexian Rager, Reforge the Soul. Again, we just want a few more wheel effects in here. Rummaging Goblin. Sin Prodder. I like Sin Prodder a lot because, especially if it's in a deck where you want to fill your graveyard, it gives your opponent the opportunity to either take damage and then fill your graveyard, which you're happy with, or fill your hand. So either way, you're basically adding to your hand. So Sin Prodder is a pretty interesting one. The Menace on it also allows you to get through from time to time. Now, with the power of 3, it's not as good with Alesha, but I was just trying to look for more draw type effects that I could add in here. Solemn we already talked about. Obviously ramps you, draws a card. Wall of Omens, recurable with Alesha, good blocker, goes down early and draws you a card. And Wheel of Fate. Okay. I did not put Wheel of Fortune in here, I don't think. I was trying to keep it, not $1 billion. But I would put Wheel of Fortune in here, let's be honest. Okay. Bitter Revelation in the self-mill category also. But then we have Crow of Dark Tidings. Again, can be recurred with Alesha. Mills you on the way in and the way out. So that's good. Golgari Thug, same thing. Recurable. Mills you. Dredges. Doing a lot of things that we want to do. Mind Rack Demon. Milling you. Yeah, you take some damage from it potentially, but hopefully with the amount of self-mill that we have in here, by the time you drop a card like this, it's just a 4/5 flying with trample that allows you to dump a little bit more into your graveyard. Moonlight Bargain we talked about. Return Centaur, so not the best, but it does allow you to put some stuff in your graveyard. It is a decent blocker. If it's already in the graveyard, Alesha can bring this back, and that's probably the case that I would do a little bit more often. If I just wanted to mill myself a little bit more, Return Centaur is already in the graveyard. I recur it with Alesha. You know, I get a decent blocker, and I get to mill myself for a little bit more. Returned Reveler. So same thing. You know, we can sacrifice this to any one of our sack outlets. It's an early game blocker. It allows us to mill ourselves a little bit more. Sipsig Host. Really good blocker in this case. It's a 2/6. So it's recurable with Alesha and has a really high toughness, which is great. And when it enters the battlefield, we mill ourselves and we mill our opponents. Stinkweed Imp is a fantastic dredge card. Dredge for 5, which is huge. Basically has Death Touch and Flying, so it's one of the best blockers that you can have. Only costs 3. It's a 1/2, so it's recurable with Alesha. Really good card. I would highly suggest that you have these in any kind of dredge deck. Wailing Ghoul. Again, recurable, comes down early when it enters the battlefield. You dump the top 2 cards of your deck into your graveyard. Just more self-mill. All right, so the one combo that we kept in here was the Banisher Priest, Fiend Hunter, Sun Titans, Swift Warkite. So the way that it works, just to re-explain it, is we'll just take the example. Swift Warkite acts as a second Sun Titan here, and Banisher Priest acts as a second Fiend Hunter here. So I'll just explain it with Fiend Hunter and Sun Titan. So Fiend Hunter, you have Sun Titan out. You cast Fiend Hunter, exiling your Sun Titan. Okay, Sun Titan is now exiled. Then we sacrifice to any one of our 4 sack outlets here. We sacrifice our Fiend Hunter to one of those sack outlets. Okay, say Goblin Bombardment, dealing 1 to somebody. Then Sun Titan re-enters the battlefield. When Sun Titan re-enters the battlefield, we get to get a permanent card that costs 3 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. So we choose Fiend Hunter. Fiend Hunter re-enters the battlefield, exiles Sun Titan, we sack Fiend Hunter to the Goblin Bombardment, and we just repeat over and over and over again. And so that is the one win con that we did leave in here. That is a heavy combo that can definitely just take somebody out right away. So if you get those 3 cards out together, you're going to win. All right, Recursion. We have a little bit of Recursion in Apprentice Necromancer, Doomed Necromancer, and the Dawn side of Dusk Till Dawn. You'll get a lot of your creatures back to your hand. You will not get them back to play. It also blows out a lot of bigger creatures because we don't have a ton of big creatures in our deck. So Dusk will clear those away, allow you to bring some stuff back to your hand when you cast Dawn. Doomed Necromancer or Apprentice Necromancer, really there for an easy way to get back some of your combo pieces. They also work well with the Lightning Greaves so that you can give them haste and then do it that turn and be ready to swing out and start winning. So, win cons. We have just a couple of win cons here. We have Blood Artist that is going to win off of the Banisher Priest, Sun Titan shenanigans. The Goblin Bombardment, as we talked about, would do it. Pious Evangel, when you flip it over, that will basically do it. And Pious Evangel allows you to flip himself over by sacrificing a permanent. Suture Priest will get you infinite life. And Zulaport Cutthroat is basically another Blood Artist in this case. So after that, we basically have ways to find all of those things and save ourselves. So the first is Imperial Recruiter and Recruiter of the Guard. This allows you to find a lot of your smaller guys. Okay, so with a deck that concentrates on 2 power creatures, a lot of them also have 2 toughness, which you'll need for Recruiter of the Guard, and these just let you find whichever pieces you need. So in the case of Banisher Priest or Fiend Hunter, you can search those out. You can search out your Apprentice Necromancer, your Doomed Necromancer. So I cut back a little bit on the tutors also to give the deck a little bit more variance and make it a little bit more casual. The other deck had, I think, 5 tutors in it, and this only has 3. Of the 3 tutors, these 2 are recurable with Alesha, so it does add a little bit to that. We also have Vampira Tutor, which I think is, in my opinion, it was the weakest of the 3 spell tutors that I had in there. I had Demonic Tutor and Diabolic Tutor in there also. So we grabbed Vampira Tutor just as, another way. I mean, we do need some of our key pieces. And then going back up to WinCon, something we didn't talk about is Mortal Kombat. So this was one of the things that I added in here as what I was really shooting for and why the self-mill was really in there. I'm trying to win by milling myself into having 20 or more creatures in the graveyard so that I can win the game from that. Vampiric Tutor is basically going to be my way to find that. It's very fragile, obviously, being a singular, I'm milling myself so I can accidentally mill it and not be able to get it back. You could put an Obsidat's 8 or something like that in here in order to get it back, but I also just left that as my hopeful win condition, and then my Banisher Priest, Fiend Hunter, Sun Titan was the obvious win condition. And then we could always go beats if we needed to as well. So removal, we talked about a couple of these pieces. We already talked about Wasteland and Strip Mine. I always play Wasteland, Strip Mine, and maybe like a Ghost Quarter or a Tectonic Edge or something like that, just in case I run into a land that I really can't deal with. Sometimes you'll have a Gaia's Cradle or Sarah's Sanctum or Maze of Ith or something that's just really disrupting or accelerating somebody way too high. In order to combat that, I like to have just a touch of removal in my deck for those. So I would highly consider putting something like that in there. I think Ghost Quarter is a nice fair one to do unless somebody has too greedy of a mana base. Some people do get, bothered by that too because they don't run basics. Well, run basics, learn that Path to Exile or Settle the Wreckage or Ghost Quarter is going to be a thing that can happen to you. So moving on, we have Anguished Unmaking and Ravenous Chupacabra, Necrotic Sliver, Utter End, Vindicate, all for basically just creature and permanent removal. We've got Durgar Hedge Mage for, potentially like the Boros version of a Reclamation Sage. Bone Shredder, a little bit more creature removal. Faceless Butcher also works, kind of with the Sun Titan thing, except for Sun Titan can't bring it back, but it does allow you to exile something. So you can exile your opponent's creatures. You can bring it back with Alesha. It's got some shenanigans to it. We have a little bit of graveyard removal because we are playing against some potential graveyard decks here. So we have Bajuka Bog, pretty basic one. We have Remorseful Cleric, which is great because, again, we can recur this with Alesha, wipe out somebody's graveyard, and then bring it back. And it's just a 2/1 flyer for 2, so it comes out nice and early. And Containment Priest, if somebody tries to bring their entire graveyard back or even just 1 or 2 big pieces back, Containment Priest will stop that from happening because it's a creature entering the battlefield that they're not casting, so it's just going to go right into exile. So this can really hose people, and just keeping 2 mana open. against recursion decks, this effectively becomes a counterspell, but stronger. So, really good card. Just recently got reprinted. Okay, and then Silumgar Assassin. I don't know. I like to throw jank cards in there. It does blow things up. It's going to blow up things with low power. When you get to the video of gameplay, you'll see why I went with that. It should have plenty of targets. And that's about it. So, like I said, check the description below. It'll have the other Alesha deck. And then check out the gameplay video to see how this one did. Until then, I hope that you enjoyed this deck tech, and check out our page for many more, and make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Follow me on the Twitter at Squire9999 or at the Trinisphere. Until then, keep brewing, my friends.